A wannabe Marvel character in Mortal Kombat 2021 recruits the Mortal Kombat characters you know to fight slightly more evil characters for the fate of the world. Directed by Simon McCoy. Written by Greg Russo and Dave Callahan. Matt?
That was perfect. We're talking about Mortal Kombat 2021, of course. This is the third major motion picture based on the Mortal Kombat video game franchise, the first being Mortal Kombat 1995, which we have a whole review out. You can go and watch that. The follow-up was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Many people considered the worst video game adaptation of all time. So good, or so bad it's good. Now, new Mortal Kombat 2021. It's modern. It's flashy. Like Matt so astutely put, it's got the Marvel team-up vibes. How does it fare? I thought it was fun. I thought it was good. I feel like this movie is going to be divisive as all hell, but for the most part, I had a real good time watching it, and it lived exactly up to my expectations, Matt. That's what I'll tell you. And my expectations were about, it's going to be okay. It's probably not going to be the best thing of all time, but it'll be fun with some flaws. And that's exactly what it was. R-rated, gory as hell. Matt, what'd you think overall? Before we dive deep into the spoilery stuff, just like, did you like it? You vibe with it?
There's two main things I want to get at. One, what I think it does really well, and two, the challenges I think with making a Mortal Kombat movie. So
challenging.
When like you said, with what I expected out of a Mortal Kombat movie, and all I really want is there to be really good martial arts scenes.
Yep.
To be somewhat faithful to the fighting of the games and the characters.
Yep.
And to be kind of gory.
I like there to be a bit of camp, too. Some comedy. I don't want it to be super dark, gritty Batman, Dark Knight. Some people wanted that. No, dude. I want some of the cheesiness that comes with that.
Which is one of the challenges, because it is dark, but it is kind of goofy. And I think that what this thing did well is that the fights were pretty kick-ass.
Yes.
They got that Sub-Zero is everyone's favorite badass. And for the lapsed fans, you have 10 plus games. I've only played a few of them, but I know Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero.
Well, a lot of the thing about Mortal Kombat lore is it contradicts itself a lot in different places. And so if you're a fan of the arcade games, or if you're a fan of the newer games, and it might even, this Sub-Zero is this Sub. No, well, depending on what time they went back in the games and redid the whole timeline,
right.
There's that kind of stuff. So they're really, like we said about Mortal Kombat 1995, they were up against it. What source material do you pull from? Who are you trying to please? The new people who are coming into Mortal Kombat, the old arcade fans, the new people who are on this new Mortal Kombat 11. A lot of things to go for. I think they tried to please everyone and did an all right job. It's a little bit of something for everyone in this movie. You got classic Sub-Zero. You got new, as Matt put it, Marvel wannabe Cole Young, right?
Cole Young. I was very confused. For most of the movie, I thought he was Scorpion.
Sure.
And then he got the powers where he went all gold, and and then Scorpion shows up later on. And this is where the movie kind of, I think, struggled a bit, is that they wanted to rush things, which I like, because you don't want this movie to drag, but I think they kind of killed we can get to that later on, but I think they really struggled with that. I'd say this is the thing I wanted to get to, is that Mortal Kombat is very challenging to make a movie about. Yep. Because there are tons of characters. The characters are all very different from each other. Yeah. They're from different movies.
In different tones, completely different costumings, all sorts of things.
Exactly. Sonya walking around looks like a sort of a colorful G.I. Jane, next to super serious Sub-Zero and these sort of fantastical characters and this old-timey kind of Japanese movie stuff.
Yeah. It's all sorts of different influences, and then they're like, okay, how do you present this cohesively without looking really bad?
Exactly. And also the lore, for the most part, is very impersonal. It's not attached to the characters at all. Mm-hmm. They always struggle to say, why is there a tournament? Why have you lost 9 in a row?
Why do these people not like each other?
Yeah. The Outworld that we've never heard of, and you have to get all these characters together who also need backstories. So there's a lot of plates you need to spin. And I'd say overall, I think they did a really good job at just making a Mortal Kombat movie that was fun and was pretty kick-ass and probably would please a lot of people. I was pretty satisfied with it, and I'd say they did a pretty great job.
I feel like I agree with you almost wholeheartedly on a lot of things. I'm going to say some swear words, people. So if you don't like swear words, I guess plug your ears. I don't want to be too crass, but they shit the bed in some instances with some characters, with some things. But this is the whole, you're not going to please everyone. If oh, this person's my favorite character, maybe they die, or maybe they're not, they don't have the exact same lore, because like you said, Matt, there's so much stuff and they're not trying to drag it out. Each character maybe gets, 2 or 3 or 4 sentences about who they are, why they're there. And sometimes to make it believable within the context of the movie, it can't be exactly the same as it was in the arcade. But they did a good job kind of melding it together with what their vision was for this new Mortal Kombat, this new obvious universe, cinematic universe they're trying to start up. But as far as a just fun ride, like you said, I think they nailed it. I feel like a lot of the big issues, or the things I liked a lot or the things I hated a lot, are going to be little things that don't really inform on the overall enjoyment of the movie. So if you want to like kind of walk through the movie a little bit and just kind of remember the stuff that we liked and didn't like,
sure,
because let's start at the top. Sub-Zero versus Hanzo. I think this first fight, the first 7 minutes that was available online, you guys can watch it. It takes place in like 1600s Japan, and you have Hanzo Hasashi and the story of why this samurai and this other samurai, who eventually becomes Sub-Zero and Scorpion, hate each other. And the first 10 minutes of this movie are very serious, very gritty, very emotional, and it sets this tone well for, hey, this isn't all like Johnny Cage is a jackass. This isn't the 90s Mortal Kombat. This has some serious lore. And it shows at the front, like, hey, we care about the lore of the characters. And just as quickly as you get through the establishing few first minutes, you get one of the best fights of the movie right at the front, which is Bi-Han versus Hanzo Hasashi. And it's really, really good, and it sets the opening tone really well. Matt, what did you think about like the whole first 15 minutes?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty strong. It felt, I felt like the performances from the kid and the wife were a bit, like the kid wasn't great and the wife was a bit weird. But like you say, the confrontation between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, I remember reading some Mortal Kombat books when I was a teen, and that always felt like the most effective thing. This ninja murders your family, and now you're tormented for the rest of your life to get revenge. And I think that if I was going to go back, if I was going to write a Mortal Kombat script, that's exactly what I'd focus on.
It's a perfect anchor to get people involved in the world. It sets the stakes as of the violence is apparent right from the get-go, even though it might be a little CGI at points. And my biggest issue with this movie is that these martial artists can fight. These are some of the best martial artists in the business. Joe Talsim, I apologize if I say that wrong, the guy who plays Sub-Zero, he's in a bunch of different Eastern filmed fighting movies, and you see these fight scenes in those movies, he can hit 10 punches in a row without needing a break. So there's a lot of unnecessary cutting, but you do see like, hey, we're going for kills. People's heads are getting snapped and arms are getting cut off. I also really like that the intensity between Scorpion and Sub-Zero in that early scene. Hanzo, aka Scorpion, is speaking Japanese. Joe Talsim, Bi-Han, that dude, he's speaking Chinese, and you can feel the body language between them. It got me hyped. I'll say it got me hyped.
Yeah, when I saw that they were taking this pretty seriously, and that this was going to be, like you said, the personal anchor, and that the fight scenes were going to be pretty quickly paced, and they were going to try some things, and it felt good. And I like that this was kind of set in sort of like a rural, family-friendly kind of Japan. And then the Chinese guy come in, and I was like, oh, these damn Chinese coming in and murdering everybody.
And then, I know that you could really tell from the get-go that they were trying to pay attention to the cultures that are kind of inherent with the different characters. And that's kind of where, like you said, like everyone has a different story and they're kind of vastly different. So which one do you introduce first? Are you like going to have Sonya coming in and it's all of a sudden a military movie and that sets the tone?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I thought they started off well. Obviously, like I said, the first full 7 minutes is online. Go watch it if you're interested and you haven't seen the movie. But if you're here, I'm assuming you've seen the movie. Then we get into the Cole Young, the meat of the movie, if you will. Yeah. Cole Young, the MMA fighter. He gets his ass beat. He's got a wife and a kid, right? Allie and his daughter, who I don't remember their. They're
wife and kid. That's what they do. He's sort of like a Rocky Marvel character where he gets his ass kicked a lot. Yeah. And that's his thing.
His whole purpose of the movie is I am the audience so people can explain things about Mortal Kombat to me.
Right.
You know, his lines are not anything more than "let's fight together" or "oh, watch out, Sonya," or "this is something a more important character is saying to me." You know, he's just there to exist.
And I don't think he can really carry much more than that. I felt like he's kind of struggled to, like, he just rolled the line of what he could do.
It wasn't the actor's fault either. He was written very bland, as you alluded to earlier. Like his power isn't the greatest. It's kind of cheesy and feels a little bit Power Rangers-y. We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Very Power Rangers-y.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, it was sort of obvious that, so you see the Scorpion character die, I guess. Well, Sub-Zero kills somebody in the beginning, and then
well, this is full spoilers.
They cut to Cole, and everything's yellowy tinged, and actually it looks really good. But this is also where you start getting into the problem of, like, what is the tone of this movie? Because you've got this sort of like feudal Japan. Then you've got this real kind of like warm, slick, highly produced MMA kind of like, this is like a movie that's like real modern kind of fighting, you know, chokes and stuff.
All the set design is like, you know, rural, or not a rural, like an urban area down in the street. It's immediately
like a very glossy kind of urban.
Film
like,
different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, but then after that, it cuts to the other world, which looks like a weird sci-fi kind of Korean soap opera.
Yes, Outworld. I would say the movie gives you all of 3 lines at the beginning after that first establishing scene and sequence with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. It's like black screen. Here's some white text like, Earthrealm is being invaded by Outworld. They've won 9 Mortal Kombat tournaments. This is the shit you should know that we didn't have time to explain. Okay, go.
Should have had Chris Lambert come back and narrate that.
Yeah, so you're talking, they're doing this MMA fighting scene. They're establishing Cole Young. He's this fighter. Oh, Jax knows him because he comes and checks out his fight. Yeah. Cole's like, I got a dragon tattoo. All right, this is an important character. And then it's like, Outworld. We're in the middle of the Grand Canyon with dirt all around it or something. Yeah. Here's Melina. We don't get explanation why she's a person. You know, they're very quickly going through things. And this is where I feel like it might lose people, is it's starting.
This is where it feels really silly.
Yes. And honestly, I'm not remembering a whole lot about the little minutiae of the scene or the exact scenes themselves until we get to another Sub-Zero moment. Sub-Zero really carries this movie. If there's anything you want to talk about,
I think this is where the movie has to do the work. It has to now it has to flesh out all of this sort of otherworld stuff. It's got to get the story in. Like, they did a text crawl, like you said.
Yeah.
Sub-Zero kind of talks to Shang Tsung, who I assumed was actually Shao Kahn the Emperor until the very end of the movie when they finally say his name.
You thought he was Shao Kahn the entire time?
Yeah, just because the way he seemed to move kind of slow, and I really love the casting of Shang Tsung in the 1995 version, and he was so just important all the time. They built him up. But yeah, then they kind of flip back, and it's more of this kind of modern thing. Guy and his daughter, and then I'm thinking the part you're going to talk about with Sub-Zero is he sort of becomes this. I saw somebody describe it as like the monster in like a slasher movie where people fear him. He's taken out whole blocks of places. Everything's becoming cold. The snow's coming down. I really liked how they handled Sub-Zero. I thought that he got done really dirty in 1995, where he just gets killed and they call him a goon. They call him one of Shang Tsung's goons.
Both him and Scorpion are like reduced to nothingness in the 1995 version, whereas this one's like, oh no, Sub-Zero is the main thing. If you saw the trailer, you might think this movie is Sub-Zero v Scorpion. No, it's like Sub-Zero v everybody who gets in his way. Because the rules of Mortal Kombat in this movie don't apply. You can attack people. Well, Shang Tsung says normally we're not allowed to attack your fighters or people who are going to fight in the Mortal Kombat tournament outside. But all you elder gods don't have any sort. You're not going to do anything to me except for you, Raiden. Raiden's in this movie. And so in kind of one fell swoop, I was like, I don't like that you're not kind of doing the Mortal Kombat rules as I feel. But at the same time, I like that you're mentioning the Elder Gods. I like that you're bringing that kind of stuff into conversation because it sets up for movies 2, 3, whatever they're going to do. But yeah, it very quickly is like, hey, there's Cole. Here's Jax stuff. Sub-Zero is going to come in and beat up a bunch of people.
It starts feeling like the Terminator, actually. Where Sub-Zero is this unstoppable killing machine and there's like, it's kind of starts looking like a Terminator movie. Like, you got like the cars kind of streaking around and he's unstoppable, and Jax has to end up sacrificing himself. And I really like this part. And I think it's
like that
kind
fight.
of the second sort of kick-ass part of the movie. We see him freeze Jax's arms and just bust him up. And you get a lot of those kind of cool scenes that could be considered fatalities.
Yes. I like the Jax v Sub-Zero fight was another great fight. Eventually, Cole has to go and meet Sonya. Sonya's all right. I thought she did a good job. I thought her fighting skill was on point. And there's a scene there where Sonya's like, oh, hey, okay, Cole, you're part of Mortal Kombat now. Let me explain everything to you. Yeah. And there's this big kind of like crazy investigation wall that Sonya has in her trailer or whatever.
This felt a bit cartoony to me.
Well, yeah, but as they pan over it, they're showing different things that if you're like a deep Mortal Kombat lover, you'll be like, oh, that's Nightwolf there, and that's a Tarkatan or Baraka, or oh, that's, is that Taven and Dagon, and like just weird things that people might not, the normal viewer be like, okay, whatever, look a little, but you're picking up these very small things, and that gave me a little bit of that lore flavor. And just as I felt that kind of leaving, as Sonya gives her exposition on here's everything you need to know about Mortal Kombat, Kano, played by Josh Lawson, comes in and just steals the next hour and 10 minutes of this whole thing. The thing about Cole Young is Cole Young in this story is meant to be you, the audience, the avatar of the audience. In real, like, Kano is that voice of the audience. He's the one that is constantly grounding things with humor. The weird thing about Kano for me is he's not one of my favorite characters in the games. I don't really like his character in the games, but Josh Lawson plays this slime ball who is somehow one of the most likable characters in the entire movie because he feels so honest and real. And then he just, any problems I had with the movie, Josh Lawson is right. Kano is right there with a quippy remark that brings it back down, a funny one-liner or something. And it was great. I thought Kano was great through the whole entire next hour and a half.
What I liked about Kano's characterization is that he is a mercenary, so he would obviously have to get by on his wits, so it makes sense
from the Black Dragon clan, dude.
Yeah, so it makes sense that he would be incredibly funny, and I like the way that he attacks people, and he's just... I think it just really fleshes his character out. I thought the first few scenes with him and his jokes, I thought he's nailing every single one of these. I was actually laughing out loud. It was fucking perfect.
There's one part
where they overuse it a little bit, but I think it was just working so well they kept going with it. But when he reaches in to Reptile, and he pulls out the heart, I'm like, oh,
he does
cool.
the heart
does the fatality.
Yeah.
When he just kind of basically looks at the camera and goes, Kano wins.
Yeah,
that was so good.
That's a good one. It was I really liked Kano. I liked just how cheeky he was. The whole Reptile fight I thought was pretty cool. Some people thought Reptile was going to be weird. I thought Reptile was great. Once again, if we skip over things, it's
that starts feeling like Alien at that point. Now they're stuck in a room. There's this in like a camouflaged beast that has acid.
Yeah. They're trying to, so it starts off as like a feudal Japan movie, and then we're in an MMA movie, and then we got Alien, and now we're going to Power Rangers. We're doing Power Rangers because they all team up. We're gonna go out and search for Raiden's temple
and find your power. Now you have this kind of like training montage of you need to search within and find out how you get your magic.
They meet Liu Kang. The nice thing about this movie, too, is everybody, when they get introduced, they introduce themselves as if they're, like, being interviewed for a job. He's like, oh, I'm Kano, the mercenary from the Black Dragon clan. Yeah. Or, Kung Lao's like, it's me, Kung Lao, the great descendant of Grandmaster Kung Lao. For a layman, you're like, I don't know what any of these clans are, what any of these people are. There's no anything to make me understand why these people are important, but you at least understand who the characters are within the universe that they're trying to present. So yeah, you meet Liu Kang and Kung Lao, who hang out at Raiden's temple, which is this kind of sacred, training ground. They learn they have to unlock their inner magic, which is their arcana. That's something new. That's a movie thing.
Okay.
Yeah, unless it's in some weird Mortal Kombat 5 or 6.
I didn't mind it. I thought that it worked pretty well for this kind of a feel good Rocky. You have to have some kind of arc, and it kind of makes sense because I think why does Sonya Blade have?
Why can she shoot sonar beams?
Yeah,
like why is that? She just have sick gadgets that no one else knows? Why does Jax have? Well, I mean. The Jax arms thing.
Yeah, we thought that was just kind of like future tech or something. But Sonya is where it sold it for me. I go, oh, right, because in the first game she had the beams. It made it only. I didn't care back then because it was just a video game. But now you have to make this person make sense.
Kano starts without his eye beam, so you're like, how is that going to happen? And then there's this fantastic scene, a fantastic dinner scene where everyone's sitting around and Kano's getting pissed because Kung Lao won't pass him an egg roll, bro. Kung Lao is just being a dick. And I heard a lot of people saying, I don't really like Liu Kang. Liu Kang wasn't that strong. It's because he wasn't the protagonist. He was
he was just more like a guide, a spiritual guide for them.
Yeah. In fact, Kung Lao v Liu Kang, those two guys together, who are kind of similar characters in what they bring to the movie. I liked Kung Lao better. He had the better fatality. He had a little bit more presence on the screen. But that scene where they're just roasting Kano, I think Liu Kang is like, you're like a small bunny, very angry. That started to make you like the characters more. Kano gets his arcana. Meanwhile, Jax has little baby T-Rex arms and is really sad. That stuff. Some of it didn't work for me. Some of it I was like, this is so dumb. Sonya's talking about like, Jax, when we were in the Marines, we had to run 20 miles, and that felt really fake. Whereas when Jax was fighting Sub-Zero in the very beginning, the first thing he says is, I fought 6 tours, motherfucker. That told me everything I needed to know about Jax in one.
Well, there's a difference between inferring something with like a clever line and just literally saying the history.
Remember when we had to walk 20? This is my pep talk. This is what I'm doing, right? And so a lot of, some scenes kind of felt like that in this moment, or in this part of the movie that was like 40 minutes to about an hour and 20 minutes, where they're kind of, here comes Shang Tsung, Sub-Zero is invading because they're all trying to fight each other. Raiden puts up a big was it like a lightning shield to protect everybody, and it's kind of, you can see the movie is starting to get towards the end. They're okay, people are getting their powers, some people are dying, we're having these big fights and stuff like that, and this is kind of where the movie could have fallen apart for me.
And then they just sort of hit the fast forward button. They totally flip the script and they say, and it becomes this like heist movie.
Yes.
I think Corky actually described it like that, where it's they're like, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And I was kind of taken aback, and I thought, you're going to have all the fights at the same time. There's not going to be a tournament. And at first I thought it was a bit iffy, but it worked because right when the movie was kind of about to drag, they kick it into high gear. They have all the fights, and then I was looking down at my timer and I go, there's only 20 minutes left, and there's going to be the big fight with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. So
I feel like a lot of people realized maybe about halfway through this movie, like, there's not going to be a Mortal Kombat tournament. Like, oh shit. And a lot of people, I feel like that's a make or break. And so at the end there,
as long as there's good fights, I mean, it doesn't have to be a tournament.
And I've had this conversation with a lot of people. It's like, okay, what defines a Mortal Kombat tournament fight? Because in the first Mortal Kombat, they're fighting in the pit. That stage. There is a scene, a fight between Jax and Raiko, who is the character who has quite a bit of history in the Mortal Kombat lore. He's kind of reduced to just
he's new to me.
Yeah, he's someone in Mortal Kombat 4. He's a general of Shao Kahn. He doesn't look kind of like that. But they have Jax fighting him on the pit stage, which is this giant bridge with a bunch of pits underneath. Yeah. And in the first Mortal Kombat game, they fight in that stage. So the only difference between the first Mortal Kombat game and this fight that's shown in the movie is an announcer saying, fight. So what makes it not part of the Mortal Kombat tournament? Is this just... the tournament is a what they keep referring to, a prophecy, or like, the foreshadowing, or all these fighters are going to fight. Maybe in this new Mortal Kombat tournament, the tournament, or the new Mortal Kombat tournament, is just these people fighting at the end. They're kind of like going to their stage select, because don't they go to like a void, a white, like in between realm there towards the end? I
can't remember, probably. But you know what I did like though? Okay, go ahead.
I think from there they kind of, because like you said, there's this escape scene, there's this heist thing. Everyone's, okay, you're gonna go fight this person. I feel like they're just in like a white void, and Raiden is just teleporting them to different people, which is kind of like, I felt like, okay, that's like a bunch of fights that you would see in the normal.
I think it totally worked for me, and I thought it was a really clever way to get a lot of it done, rather than having a bunch of fights against sort of cannon fodder of the main characters. You know what I did? Too. Yeah, true, and it like picked the movie up and kind of kicked in for the last hour.
I like Liu Kang fighting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
my bad.
Oh, I like the whole the Mortal Kombat markings. I thought that would be kind of stupid, but I like that people had it and they had to kill to get it, and it kind of made more sense in terms of like, because that's a part of the story that is always, who are these people? Are they? Yeah. You either go, are they the best in the world, or are you going for this more of like an origin story of like the chosen ones? And I think
because everybody who has superpowers has a dragon marking, a logo, some sort of birthmark. Cole, he's had it since he was born, so he was born with it, whereas other people get it by killing other warriors. And like you said, Matt, at first I was like, I don't know, this kind of seems like a weird hand-wavy thing. But then Sonya says, me and Jax were in Brazil hunting a wanted fugitive. It had superpowers. Once Jax finally killed it, he got this dragon marking. And immediately I went, oh, who's the guy he killed? Right? I start asking, this very simple plot. Then it starts expanding the world. I think there's somebody else too who's like, oh, I got my.
And I think that's like in good sci-fi and fantasy stuff. You don't need to over-explain everything. You just announce an idea, like
as
you
long
just
as
said.
It works within universe. You don't need to explain it 5 ways and back. And I think that's why people getting random arcanas, like Jax's arcana, his magic, his superpower was now he gets mechanical arms.
That was like it was weird because he had the mechanical arms already, and then they got bigger.
Yes, and the same.
But it's magic, so whatever.
With Cole's magic power, like Matt said earlier, is that he has this bracelet that his daughter made. It's very funny early in the movie. She's like, look at this bracelet that's yellow and black. I'm like, oh, like Scorpion's colors. I wonder if this bracelet's going to be very important. And then his bracelet becomes what I've seen the internet calling literal plot armor. He's just kinetic armor that he can take all the hits. Because he gets beat up as an MMA guy.
He's
and
Rocky.
Then he can
he's the tough guy that
correct, yeah.
That maybe isn't the most talented, but can take the hits.
Even though some of the Arcana stuff didn't work for me as like, oh, I wish Jax had something cooler or that kind of stupid. Like the whole idea was worth it. And I feel like that's this movie in general. Like while some things might not fit perfectly, the what they're going for works.
Because if you don't do that, then you have let's say you go, they're going to have a tournament and all the best fighters in the world are there. Why do I'm
surprised you're taking this standpoint though, because you really like the idea of Mortal Kombat 1995 being like Bloodsport, just do a tournament, have it right here. So when it wasn't a tournament and it was kind of all this like prelude origin, here's how Jax gets his arms, here's who Cabal is, like all this stuff. I thought you were going to fucking hate this movie, but the fact that you liked it informed to me that like they did enough of the fighting in a structured manner that you didn't need Shang Tsung's island. You didn't need this formatted tournament for people to understand that these fights are big. These are important fights between strong people who are fighting for each realm.
And also, I feel like you can feel the writers sitting down and going, these people have magic powers. We either, in 1995, they just said, all the humans don't have magic powers.
Yeah, Liu Kang throws half a fire punch.
So it's kind of like unexplained, and why can he do a bicycle kick and stuff? But in this one, they chose to buy into it, and I just think it worked really well, and they kind of had fun with it, and they made it work for them. You know what? I like the 1995 Goro better. Like if we're going to compare the two Mortal Kombat,
it's just straight CGI versus practical.
Yeah, and he kind of looked like he just stepped out of World of Warcraft. He was like fine CGI, but I like the model of Goro 1995.
They did Goro a bit dirty. There's a point here halfway through the movie where Raiden, who feels underused in this movie, he kind of makes a few jokes. He doesn't feel all that intimidating. I'm not gonna say I don't like Raiden. I really like, not only for every character. I love the costuming. I love the casting. I think it's sick. I just don't think maybe the performances were right there, or maybe the writing lacked a little bit. Raiden was one of those. But
he had a lot of expository dialogue too.
Yeah, and he was, so there's a point where Raiden's like, Cole Young, you're not going to be strong enough. You go home and hang out with your family.
Right.
And then so he goes off to wherever he lives. I can't really remember. It's some little house. And then Goro in CGI shows up to beat his ass. So I thought the Goro scene was fun. He's causing a lot of destruction.
Yeah.
Like so there was light horror vibes, Cole's like hiding with his crowbar, and then Goro punches through the wall. There's a lot of cool stuff there. But Goro did get beat by essentially the Red Ranger, like the Red Power Ranger. That's what Cole Young feels like to me, except with, plot armor suit, whatever you want to call it. So I thought Goro maybe Sub-Zero was a bigger fear in this movie than Goro was, which I feel like you said is very different from 1995.
Sure, I think that it's such a good job of always building up to Goro being unstoppable. They have a lot of those kind of blood sport scenes of him just like taking out people one after another. They
tried to build up Goro because you see early on in the movie, he's like, oh, Prince Goro, and you see like a big intimidating shadow. Yeah. But for that, it felt more like, oh, they're saving CGI money. That's what that felt like to me. Goro was a bit of a side note. He's like, hey, here's a big fighter guy for one part,
But I think because these every time somebody loses a fight, they get fucking murdered.
Yeah, so you got to pick and choose.
Yeah, they can only be there for so long.
Let's talk really quick because we've talked up to the end of the movie here. I feel like we skipped over some things. Speaking of fatalities, fucking Kung Lao. Kung Lao gets the best fatality in this movie. There's this part where they're all chaos is descending on the training grounds, and here comes the Outworld invaders, Natara, who is a character who is different in the games, completely different. They just threw like vampire wings on her, and she doesn't have any lines, much like Raiko, the other guy.
Played by probably the most beautiful woman in the world.
Yeah, as she flies in, and then she just gets her face split in half by Kung Lao's spinning blade. That was amazing. I hope you see a lot more fatality. It was also a direct pull from the game. He has
that's his Mortal Kombat 2 fatality.
Yeah, and in Mortal Kombat 9, he does it, but in reverse. So he pulls them pelvis down. They probably avoided that. Yeah, exactly. Jax also doing the head clap on Raiko was fucking sick,
was great.
Dude. That was really good. But it's like you said, it's who do you kill? You know, because people are gonna die. So unless you're gonna bring in like all these big names, and then you're adding minutes into the movie, because either you're gonna kill them off fast and piss off fans.
That's another challenge of telling this story. Yeah, is that these people all have to die at the end of the fight.
So a lot of people are going to say, well, Natara sucked, Raiko sucked. These people didn't have any lines. It's like, well, who would you have chosen instead? What character would you have put in there, knowing that they have 5 minutes on screen and then they're going to die? Speaking of Kung Lao, rip my boy, dude. They always do Kung Lao so dirty. He always dies.
I always thought of him as kind of like a watered-down Liu Kang, or kind of like the part in between Liu Kang and Raiden. So, I don't know. I thought he did his job. You have to have sacrifices. Why, you wanted him to stick around longer, or what?
When it comes to Mortal Kombat, my character is Scorpion. My younger brother's character is Kung Lao. I have an immense amount of respect for Kung Lao as a character, just because I have experienced probably 30 hours, 40 hours real time getting my ass kicked. And I also know it's his favorite character. So when I see Kung Lao, I'm like, I don't know, do it to Liu Kang. I don't care. Like, for me,
you could have lost Liu Kang. Kung Lao had way more personality in this.
Yes, that is also the thing too for this.
And you didn't need Liu Kang. They had both done their job of teaching people.
This is and then Kano got ripped too at the end there. Sonya needed to get her, her dragon marking. So Kano died. But as these characters died, I was like, this is Mortal Kombat. They're going to get resurrected by Quan Chi in like movie 3 or something. It's going to happen.
See, I don't know anything about that.
I mean, it's just in general, Mortal Kombat.
I care.
They are in Mortal Kombat 11. They are like 7 or 8 characters who are in this, who are now in the new game, who are literally just zombies. They're resurrected versions of themselves. So like kind of the idea of like, oh, well, maybe Kung Lao will get resurrected and he'll fight for the bad side. So I didn't really like Kano, my favorite character in the movie. I didn't like really get upset when he died. I feel like Kung Lao was the only one I was like, oh, dang it. But for the most part, I wasn't super emotionally invested in anyone besides Sub-Zero and Scorpion and a few other parts here and there. So I'm glad that they came right back to bookend the whole movie with another, probably the best fight in the whole damn movie, and the one that shows the most parody with the game. Not parody like a joke, but parody as in it's almost exactly the same. A lot of those moves that Sub-Zero versus Scorpion in the end, right from the game.
The way he says come over here in English.
Yeah. That was a weird thing. So at the end of the movie, they're kind of like, okay, Sub-Zero has transported Cole to this, it's like an iced out version of the MMA fighting ring he was in before. And his wife and daughter are like all frozen, which I thought was cheesy as hell. And I'm, whatever. Because like Matt said, he's the Scorpion descendant. If he uses blood on the kunai that Scorpion had in the beginning of the movie, Raiden gives him, then he can summon Scorpion. It's just all this kind of
that part. I thought this moment could have been so cool because they set it up in the beginning. It happens at the end. It's supposed to be the big reveal. Gandalf's back. Fucking Ray's got a lightsaber or whatever. Sure. Like, this was the big moment, and I thought
Scorpion's here, baby.
When he came, I was like, oh, I thought the Power Ranger was Scorpion. Okay, and then he just kind of goes, I've been through hell to come back or something, and I feel like there needed to be one more scene earlier in the movie, just explaining that he could come back. I know they don't want to ruin kind of the like the surprise of him coming back, but if you want that to have any kind of emotional weight, you need to explain it a bit more, I think.
Did you see the trailer?
No.
Okay. if you watch a trailer, you would think Scorpion was going to be throughout this whole movie because they show Scorpion's reveal. So it's not like they were worried that people were going to know that Scorpion was the reveal at the end of the movie. They show that shit right in the end of the trailer. Like, they're like, here's the Scorpion. They show both. Actually, it's funny. In the trailer, they show the last fight. They don't show the first fight between Bi-Han and Hanzo. It's interesting how they flipped it. So, like, you knew, if you watch the trailer, you're waiting for Scorpion to show up and say, get over here.
That's why I don't watch trailers.
It's well, you're gonna have to start watching them soon, Matt. When we do a bunch of trailer reactions, I hope you're ready, baby.
We'll see how those go.
I'll drag you through them. It's fine. But no, I mean, I liked it. The fight. You can tell that those two actors, once again, are at the top of their game. If anything is holding them back, it's the cutting. In fact, I was just rewatching the scene a few minutes ago, before this, and there are several times where the camera cut was only to like focus in. I don't know if they were cutting it past a mistake, but they were doing, it felt like creative editing. It wasn't like, oh, you needed to cut because they missed a punch. Like, it's a very fluid motion you can see them both doing. And I don't know what directors or editors, someone would have to explain to me. Like, feel like you're bringing action into the, like, energy into the fight? Because if anything, I just like a clean fight. There's a lot of special effects in this though, too.
So you have to, you have to hide CGI and stuff, but I think that it's like having multiple cameras and then just getting a bunch of cuts and stuff is a cheap, easy way to get motion, because, movies are all about motion. Instead of planning out a camera pan or scroll or whatever, that takes work and careful.
It's doing a disservice to the actual fight choreography.
Yeah, but like these guys, like you said, these guys are so good. The reason you don't recognize, most people aren't going to recognize any of these the actors in the movie. They didn't get like Jake Gyllenhaal or something.
Yeah.
Probably because they don't want to pay for them, but it's because they wanted to get people that could actually fight. And it's pretty evident that most of them.
I think it's fighting first and then, acting second. Not that you really, but some of these characters, you don't need big acting chops.
Well, everybody gets like 12 lines.
Yeah, exactly. Cabal gets a lot more lines than that dude's in the mask. And he's like, I liked Cabal. Before we end this, because we're pretty much done. I liked Cabal. I know people are gonna not like Cabal because he kind of has like this. Cabal has this
Boston thing.
Yeah, and he feels like a Kano. They're trying to but
watered down Kano.
Also, people will say that technically Cabal shouldn't be here at this point at the time. This is where like Cabal is somebody who comes later into later MKs, and they have just kind of taken his story, changed it so it fits more with this lore. And some people are like, well, I like it because Cabal is supposed to be from Earth and be like a buddy of Stryker, who's the cop character. But so, they're moving stuff around. I liked Cabal quite a bit. I liked Reptile, like I said. I kind of called the whole ending thing where they're like, we're gonna go get Johnny Cage. I'm like, sure you are. You gotta tell people there's Johnny Cage in the next movie or they're gonna rage out, bro.
But nobody actually chooses Johnny Cage. He was always the worst guy to fight with. At least in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, he's not great.
You're going to say that shit on the internet, Matt? People are going to get mad at you. They're going to say, dislike this video, downvote. Because Scorpion's the best. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, Scorpion's the best. Or Sub-Zero. I was pretty good with Reptile and Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 2. Cabal was the first Mortal Kombat character I actually sat and practiced combos for.
Yes. I would say Scorpion, like Mortal Kombat 9, I used to just button mash. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get good with Scorpion. Yo, speaking of button mashing, one of the best scenes in this movie is between Liu Kang and Kano. It's the 3 leg sweep scene. Did that get you?
Oh, that was so good. Yeah.
So he leg sweeps him once. Kano's like, is that all you got? He leg sweeps him again. And then the thing that makes
but he says, because when he does it after the first time, he says, is that the only move you know? Which is what people have definitely said in to somebody playing in the arcade.
Yeah.
And then
he sweeps him again.
But he fakes him.
Yeah, he does Kano does a little short hop.
Yeah.
And then he gets him again. And that's kind of like, that's the stuff. That is the Johnny Cage nut punch from the 1995 that I want. That same vibe. Like, give me some silly stuff that works, because they also have in the end fight, like Sub-Zero is doing his ice clone. Like, he's making the ice weapons. Yeah. He's throwing up the ice wall. This is all very super serious, hardcore. The fatalities, those are gory and just like how they are in the movie or in the games. But like, I also want the campiness, the cheesy, and I feel like Kano brought a lot of that. I feel like it kind of towards the end might have fallen off, but I feel like that is the soul that held this movie together. If they lost the funniness in Kano, and they lost the cheesiness and kind of the inherent weirdness that comes from having, like you said, a G.I. Jane next to two monks, next to an MMA fighter. It's kind of like this weird who's who of the fighting game world. I feel like it probably couldn't have worked, but there was enough vision there that it's a popcorn movie, baby. It's a popcorn movie.
And I think that it's short and breezy enough, and there's enough cool moments that I would watch it again, and I would definitely watch it with some friends.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch it again tomorrow. It's a good time. After watching it, my roommate was like, I kind of want to watch it again to see what I missed. And it's one of those things, like, if you're bored, you're gonna be bored for like a minute and a half, because here's another fight. People are just fighting for no reason in the desert. What, Sonya and Kano? Kano's just like picking shit with her because why not? And there's a quick little fight. I feel like older movies could have used that. Sometimes people are just fighting because they're assholes, and this kind of balanced that a lot. The worst parts of it were, I guess, the generic elements of like, oh, this feels like Power Rangers, or like you're saying, like, this has like 9 different kind of things it's trying to do in the beginning. Are you a cage fighting movie? Are you a Rocky movie? Are you a feudal Japan? What are we doing? Is this a tournament? Is this a blood sport?
One thing I haven't mentioned that annoyed me for most of the movies, I thought the score was incredibly generic. It was kind of...
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I thought the score was kind of going for
a...
Sometimes it was trying to do like a lot of warm strings, kind of a Marvel thing. Sometimes it was trying to do a Batman thing. Hollywood. And I just thought that it was... they played it really, really safe with the score. If the studio... It sounds like the studio said, well, let's try to make it like the Avengers and do what Marvel's doing because that works. Yep. And the score definitely felt like played safe. The theme they played over the credits at the end,
that was it. That was the game right there.
That was great. That was really good. And I thought
maybe should use that a bit more.
The whole score should have been like that.
If anything, I feel like the score was missing is remixes of those Mortal Kombat themes, those little ditties. The iconic what the credit song was, what everyone knows. I feel like the score for me, I didn't not like it. I enjoyed it because the stuff that stood out to me was kind of the more electronic bits, which felt like they were harkening back to the 90s film. There was a little bit early on in the movie, I was struggling because I was, the music did feel a little bit more energetic for the serious kind of tone they were coming across. And I'll be honest, whenever a movie goes, all right, we're doing this orchestral Hollywood Marvel kind of thing, like you said, my ears just kind of like tune out, bro. I'm just like, okay, it's violin and strings. It's just welling
big
sound,
drums.
Whatever. Yeah, okay, cool, wow, big. The thing I liked the most was Sub-Zero's theme, which is like 4 really hard bass hits. They're just like wop, wop, because it's good sound design, That's the stuff that stuck out to me. The Marvel-y shit, I guess I'm more just like kind of whatever. Because the stuff I remember was there was a few electronic-y things, especially during like a Sonya versus, oh my God, Melina the first time. I think there was a bit of that. Obviously, the final fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, that's when they actually used the Mortal Kombat theme.
Yeah,
I would say that it was uneven. For me, like, I didn't hate the bits that were very Hollywoodish or uninspired because I wasn't even listening to them. I was more looking for visual Easter eggs. I will say that a lot of it probably breezed past me because I was so intently looking like, oh, where do I see a little Easter egg? What did they hide in the background? So I maybe wasn't listening too much to the music during those points. But when the fighting was on, I agree with you. Some parts of it were weak. Some fights of it were weak. But for the most part, I enjoyed that it had a bit of style, that it wasn't just all Marvel big score booms. There was some electronic stuff there. I'm surprised though. I thought you were gonna enjoy the music, but
no,
hey, you're
too generic,
the music,
too safe.
Yep.
They could have. It needed to be way more hard hitting, way more electronica. The blueprint was there. That like everybody could agree the music is some of the best stuff in the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, it's like they came up with 2 scores, went with the safer one, and then they just grabbed a nice track from the fun score and put it over the credits.
I can see what you're saying. If that comparison, now that you say that, I feel like there probably was 2, and for 70% of it, they're like, go with the Marvel-y shit. And then for certain fight scenes, because now that I'm thinking, I think the Sonya Melina fight that I'm thinking of that had the electronica stuff, they kind of switched back to the more Marvel-y stuff once they got into the bigger. So it is like, oh, maybe for this moment, we want people to feel the hits of it. But I feel like there's a lot of room they could improve. Yeah.
But okay, overall, I think, it if somebody for some reason has watched this and hasn't seen it, I would recommend seeing it. And I think they really, really succeeded in something that is very difficult.
Yes.
So I'm a fan. I'd recommend
Do you have a
it.
favorite
I'd watch
part?
it again.
Yeah. Everyone go out and watch this shit. If you're watching this still and you're like, should I watch this movie? Yes. Why haven't you? It's weird that you're still here. But if you need another reason, you need to watch it just for the leg sweep scene. That's my favorite goddamn scene in the whole thing. I'm probably gonna have 3 other scenes that I want to be like, oh, I should have said that one. But like, the leg sweep scene is choice material. It's really good stuff. What was your favorite part? Did you get hyped for a specific scene?
Once Kano came in, I thought this movie is really clicking, and it works well. And leg sweep and versus Kano wins. Leg sweep was what I liked about it is that is actually a moment from the video games that I've had playing with people, and I thought it was just done to perfection. It was so well. So,
or the dinner scene. Yeah, watch this movie. That's my recommendation.
Again, and if you want to watch our review on Mortal Kombat 1995, the video is up on our YouTube channel. If you like podcasts instead, there's a podcast called A 90s Kid, and it has those reviews there. And you also have an article on A 90s Kid. It's something to do with fatalities.
Yeah, it was actually, it's kind of, now I feel prophetic because it was the Mortal Kombat fatalities I wanted to see in the movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I was saying kind of came true. Like for Kano, I wanted him to do this fatality where he grabs the other opponent, he sticks a broken bottle glass or a beer bottle in their neck, and then he dances with him. And I said, okay, if they don't do that one, it's fine. I just want Kano to be that kind of asshole. You know, like I want him to be silly, and like the things I wanted from Sonya's fatality were in there. So, hey, if you want to see me being a little like, hey, my Mortal Kombat futuristic brain thinking, I actually called quite a bit. But yeah, it's just fun fatalities from the Mortal Kombat movie and things that I wanted to see in the Mortal Kombat movie. Check that out. And in general, if you like listening to me and Matt talk for like 40, 50 minutes, just search more Matt and Matt movie reviews. It's good stuff.
Check it out.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Bye.